Hello and welcome to the Habit Coach podcast. I'm Ashdin, doctor, your habit coach, and today we have a very exciting podcast. This is something that I've been waiting for a really long time. We've had a few scheduling difficulties, but it's finally happening. We have Gabe Jaramillo on the podcast, and we're going to be talking about his amazing book, How to Make Champions. Now, Gabe is a tennis coach, and well, the entire book is about sports. I'm not a sports person, but I took a lot of things out from a business point of view as a habit coach. So, those are the things that I love about the book because it is so expansive. Gabe, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast and welcome to the Habit Coach podcast.
No, Ashley Doctor, to me, I'm so excited about this. I follow some of your podcasts. I love what you try to transmit to the people. And I think what you do is so important for everybody. I mean, I've been waiting for the podcast. This is really exciting for me.
So much love. Thank you. Thank you. Gabe, just can you tell us a little bit about you? How did you get into coaching? What is your background?
Um, I grew up in a household of high performance athletes. My mother was an Olympic swimming coach. Uh, to tell the truth, our house or our home resembled like a military barracks.
Wow.
With the 5 a.m. wake up calls, everybody was up. At that time, everybody had to be ready. But the interesting thing is, we were very young. I was 8, my brother was 7. And since that age, we had to have all our equipment ready the night before. And it was our responsibility. It was not my parents, it was not the mates, it was our responsibility. In our house, we were fortunate enough to have our own swimming pool. We had our own gym. And so at 5 o'clock in the morning, we were practicing. But everything started from the night before. The preparation had to be perfect. So that's something that those routines that to me helped me for the rest of my life. Being prepared the night before, knowing that the day start very early, that we have no time to waste, that we had that sense of urgency from the very beginning. To me, those part of the routine that helped me a lot. And and the key to me is the consistency. My mom used to say you have to be consistent with your routines. And also, it's like let's say in sports, if you get the wrong routines, if you get the wrong habits, to change them later on is very difficult. So you might as well start with the proper routines right away. You better start with the routines that are going to help you, and you don't have to change later on. But that's something that we learn, from the very beginning.
It's
Now,
amazing because you were put into this right from the beginning, the way that your parents structured this for you. But what were you feeling at that time? Was it something that was feeling forced? Was this just a way of life? What was the feeling at that time?
well, my mother was an Olympic swimming coach, so he was very motivational. Every time we did it right, she really, gave us a lot of courage, a lot of encouragement. What we're doing was the right thing. They treated us like professional players since the very beginning. We were professional athletes. It's not like one day you will make it. No, no, no. At 8 years old, they treated us like professionals. So every time we did something right, they tell us that's the way. We did it wrong. That it was a way for them to tell us, hey, that's not your brand. That's not the brand of a champion. So this is the way you need to do it. So we grew up with that mentality. And me, I know that I grew up knowing that I was going to be a coach. I had it in every cell of my body. I feel it in every bone. I'm a coach. And as a coach, yes, like you, because you are a coach, is what do we try to do? Our joy is to give our knowledge to the people so they can improve. That's what we live for. We don't live for the money. We don't live for the fame. We are there to help people. That's what we're all about.
And you've coached some amazing athletes over the years, right? Can you just name a few for our audience to create a connect and understand, like, what level of athlete we're talking about?
No, well, there's a difference. You say I
Hmm.
coach, but
Hmm.
to me, I didn't coach him. I
Hmm.
made him. I
Wow.
made those players. I
Hmm.
made champions, and that is with me in my body, knowing that I get them when they are very very young, and I take them all the way until they are stars. So I had players like Sharapova, like Monica Seles, like Pete Sampras, like Andre Agassi. on and on and on. I mean, it's so many of them, but it's been very it's beautiful to look back, to know that I put so much effort into it, and to see how well these people did. Even though sometimes as coaches we don't have as much a recognition as they do, but we feel very proud for them. So it's like I was saying before, it's part of what we do, is part of who we are. And people ask me a lot of times, in those players, what do they have in common? Because there were so many of them, 11 number ones in the world,
Wow.
27 top 10 in the world. People ask me, what do they have in common? And I always said that there is a difference. People don't understand, but it's a difference between talent and potential. And talent, I could be the best coach in the world, but if I don't have a talented player, I won't be able to make that player. I need that player to have that talent for me to be able to take him to the stardom. So, but recognize talent is easy. Is how fast they move, how easily they move. They have easy power. That their physical part is very easy to recognize. Now, the other part is a little more difficult, the potential, because the potential has a lot of intangibles. And one of the intangibles that it has is if they have the right routines from the very beginning. If you see a player that from the very beginning, they don't have the right routines, they're not going to make it, because they don't have the discipline and they don't have the commitment. Because high performance is the same as having the right routines. To me, it's two words: it's commitment and discipline, right? I mean, you know that. So
Correct.
all those players, when they were very young, I remember Sharapova, 9 years old. She will, if I tell her practice starts at 8 o'clock in the morning, she was there half an hour earlier, making sure that she was ready. And at 8 o'clock, she was hitting balls. She didn't have time to waste. But all of them did it the same. If I told them practice is at 8 o'clock, they were there at 7:30. And I have a interesting stories to show you how we as coaches, it was our mentality. Boris Becker, when he tried to regain his number one in the world, he came to train with us. So we talked the night before and we told him practice 10 o'clock in the morning. He showed up at 10:15. When he showed up, Red Amy, which was the coach that was taking care of the court, told him, hey, that number one in the world stays outside the door. Tomorrow you don't hear on time, you don't practice. And that was part of our mentality as coaches. So to make sure that they have basically that they had the right routines and the respect for the practice. So talking about the potential routines play a very important part. For example, like I was telling you, if I told them they have to be at 8 o'clock in the morning, they were there at 7:30, every single one of them. All the routines that they had at the end of the day. At the end of the day, Pete Sampras, every day that he served, his first serve. Agassi served every day. But the interesting thing is my brother, for example, to give you an example, my brother competed in the Olympic Games, Munich and Montreal. He was an Olympic swimmer. He was shorter. He was only 5'8.5", but all the other guys were 6 feet and up. So he knew that for him, the takeoff and the turns were very important. So every day, after everybody was gone, when the swimming pool was empty, he was on his own, taking, going out, getting back again, getting out, repetition, 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 but repetition to make sure that he had the right routine. So all this was the routine. And the tennis players did the same. What happens with some of them that didn't make it? One day they would practice the serve. Another day they would practice the forehand. Another day they wouldn't come. We were talking about Monica Seles, you and me, before we started the podcast.
Mhm.
What made Monica Seles the best player in the world was her routines. Her routines were absolutely perfect. The amount of repetition that she did, the way she did it, it was just perfect. That's what she was unbeatable. So that's the important that in sports, which I think also in life, the routines have. But like I said at the beginning, it's two words: it's commitment and it's discipline.
How do you suggest parents who are listening to this podcast build this routine of discipline into their children?
I think what happens in a lot of parts of the world is the parents, they are overprotective. So they want to do everything for the children. If they are 8 years old, for example, if they come to the academy and they are not prepared because my mother didn't put my water jug, or my mother didn't put my rackets, or my mother put the wrong shoes. They don't play because it's not the mother's responsibility. It is the player's responsibility. And we try to teach that to the parents. Many times you see that the parents here, they carry the students' rackets, or they carry the golf bag. And I say, no, 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 that's not your, just not your duty. That is the player's duty. That is his responsibility. So sometimes the parents need to make sure, first of all, that the kids have the right routines. For example, if it's to have the clothes ready for the next day to go to school, that is their children's responsibility, not the parents' responsibility. Little things like that are going to help the children become champions. Because remember, what we're trying to do is we create champions for life. Not only that they become the best tennis player or the best golfer in the world, the best soccer player, is we want to make sure that we make champions for life. And routines are very important. I was talking to my wife. My wife is very disciplined, and she was saying how many people in January they go, okay, I'm going to lose weight, I'm going to do this year. They have all this, but they never follow through. I
Correct.
mean, they say they're going to do it. I mean, it's part of what we're talking about. It is part of those routines that are so important. But the parents need to start putting that into the children from the very beginning. Little stuff. Have your books ready? Have your uh, your clothing ready before? All that needs to be before.
So getting the routine in place of being prepared, I think that's a fantastic way of getting that habit into the children, saying that, look, this is your responsibility. We are supporting you in everything. I need to see that you're making this change for yourself. You're making this particular routine and discipline for yourself. I think that makes a big difference.
Makes a big difference. And that's something that's going to help them for the rest of their lives. Same thing. Being on time, that's a responsibility that the children have to have. And the parents need to give that also to the children to make sure if they make a mistake, oh, it's okay. Let them make the mistake, but they have to learn from it. And
Yes.
the other part, I think sometimes when we talk about routines, when we talk about parents, is sometimes the parents don't understand. They think they know the children better, and they don't let them speak. And I think it's better that if he did something wrong, if he didn't do the routine or whatever, let him explain why. Maybe he has the right reason. Then give him a little room, and then get him back to the routines. But
Correct.
like I was saying before, that to me repetition is key, because the repetition is the easiest way, to become proficient in anything you do. Uh, Repetition is the base for everything, and is the base when we're talking about the routines. Uh, if you look at the routines, we can talk a lot. We can talk
Mm.
about what the players do before, during, after practice. I mean, they all have the same set of routines. And most of these players in life, they were very successful because they were able to apply the same routines in whatever they did in life. And I made a lot of number ones in the world, but I met a lot of more players that didn't make it. But today they're very successful doctors, lawyers, business people. Yes, because what they learn with the sport.
I think what you said is so important, that you had 11 number one champions that became number one in tennis, but but the others became champions in life. You've coached 11 world number ones. What are like five habits that you saw that were very, very similar across all of them? It could be the pre-game habit, it could be the practice habit, it could be mindset habits, anything that you looked and said, wow, this is something that makes a champion.
The first habit that we always look for is that we talked about before, is making sure they have uh, the right repetitions, the right routines, coming on time. And the second is to make sure, for example, all of them at the end of the practice, they were very good about understanding what they had learned that day. But they were young, they were little kids. They will come to me and say, okay, this is what I got today out of the practice. What do you think, coach? I'm talking about little kids. The other part that they did is they all practice at the end of the day on their own. I mean, I probably told them once, hey, you have to practice yourself on your own. And they did it on their own. Nobody had to push them. Nobody had to go and look for them. Nobody had to chase them down. They did it on their own. Yeah, during tournaments, for example, I give you an idea on why also they are so important to me. The routines are so important. Agassi, Agassi will go to a tournament, and what people don't know is that during the tournament, people practice. The professional players, they have uh, courts aside for them to practice before their matches. But when those players leave, the court is a mess. They have towels everywhere, tennis balls, tennis cans, torn grips. I mean, a mess. Agassi, every time he came on the court, he cleaned the court. He spent 5, 6 minutes, but that court had to be spotless before he started the practice. Every time. That was his routine. And when we asked him, why do you do that? He said, if the court is clean, it gives me a sense of calmness. If the court is a mess, I have that in my mind that something is wrong. And that's what you see also, for example, with Nadal. You see Nadal, all the stuff that he does, before he starts the match. He lineups the bottles, he looks at the stands. It's always the same routine. And it's not because people tell him a lot of times, well, it's superstition. He goes, no, it's a way for me to calm my mind. It's for me to know, hey, everything is organized, everything is in order. So that's what people need to understand, that routines give you is calmness. If you're ready to go to a meeting, if you are ready, to have the most difficult meeting, but you are ready, you're calm. But if things are not ready, things are out of place, even the office, like these players, for example, before the matches, they go and they check the court they're going to play on, because many times they don't know that court. So they say they play on court two, and they never play on that court. They go the night before, and they visualize the court. They visualize where their fans are going to be, where their family is going to sit, where the coaches are going to sit, they visualize all that. And I see also, when these people became business people, they did the same. They went to the office that they were going to have the meeting. They wanted to see the office, where they're going to see, where the people. I mean, so when they go to the meeting, they are very prepared. Mentally, they are prepared. They're calm because they know everything is in order. So that's one of the advantages that all these people had in terms of routine. And I keep going down of how many of those routines that you said that they had in common, but it was all of them. It wasn't like it was one or two of them. It's like all of them had the same routines that they made better, they made more perfect, every time. And the part with the routine that I think is key is is the degree of discipline and respect that they had for them. Every time when they did this routine, they were striving for perfection. It wasn't like no, no. Every time the routine had to be better. Every time the routine had to be more perfect. And to me, that's the part that is very important for them to understand. It's not just to go through the motions. No, no, no. The routine has to have a purpose. And if you go through those routines and you are prepared, your chances of succeed are a lot higher than if you don't go through those routines. So that's part of what the champions mentality. That's the way they think.
Amazing. It's absolutely fantastic. How would they have learned these across the board? Like when you're talking about the way that everyone was looking at cleanliness, like Nadal and Agassi, how did they learn it? Like, was it something that was innate in them? They picked it up because they would come to coach with you. Where would they learn these things from?
And most of the time, we try to inculcate those routines into the children from the very young age. And like I said, the ones that were disciplined, the ones that we know are going to make it, they did it. The other ones, we had to keep pushing them. They were not doing them. And there were some of them with a lot of talent, but they were not disciplined enough. They were not committed enough. And those are the children that basically didn't make it. Routines play a very, very important part. We as coaches can give them the first instruction. We as coaches can motivate them to do it, but it has to come from them.
Hmm.
But that's part of it. The other part, for example, the routines, because like I said, I divided in different parts. One is, the repetition. The second one is the routines. But then we have rituals. And then rituals are little things that people do between, for example, points to create a sense of stability. Uh, to me, put it this way: if you look at Nadal again, all the stuff that he does before he serves, all these little things, all these, but that slows him down. If you look at Djokovic, he bounces the ball so many times before he serves, but that also slows him down. What happens is most of the time when the players are losing, they have the tendency to speed up. They have to play faster. They want to serve even faster, and rather than recuperate, they dig a bigger hole. So all these players have rituals. If you look at Sharapova, after every point, she changed the racket to the other hand. She goes, "Come on," She turns around. She goes facing the back fence. I mean, she does 15 seconds. That's all it takes, but she does it every single time. Every time. Those are the little rituals that are part of the routines, but we call them rituals that they have to do when the match is going on, when they are in the heat of the battle, and they have to have those rituals. If they don't have them, they say they lose a lot faster. They move a lot faster. So those rituals, which are part of the routines, but I call them rituals, they are also very important, and that's why you see so many basketball players before they shoot, or the soccer player before they kick the penalty, doing all the stuff that they do. All those are little rituals that are making feel more comfortable, and at the same time, they're gonna, slow them down.
So a calm player is a far better player than one that is aggressive in that sense.
Well, they slow down. All the
Mm,
players, the better the player, the more sense they have that in a very critical point, they're gonna slow down.
mm,
And I see a lot. I think we can compare that to a business person. If he is in a meeting, rather than that responding right away very fast, trying, if he comes down and thinks twice before he speaks up, or even takes a bathroom break, I mean, that's going to slow him down to be able to have control over the meeting. Because
mm.
sometimes I think they lose the control over the meeting the same way these athletes lose control over the match when they are not able to control their environment, when they're not able to control their what they have control over, because you have control over that part. So
Correct.
those rituals that are part of the routines that we have to engrave in them, and they have to understand how important they are, because it takes discipline, and at the beginning, it takes effort to make sure they're able to do it. It's a lot easier to rush rather than slow down and do it.
Gabe, I had an interesting question for you. This is something that I was thinking about when I had the opportunity to interview you. Is that, as a coach, you wear multiple hats, and there are just three that I want to talk about. One is the coaching hat that you have before, while during practice time, then the coaching hat during a match, and the coaching hat after a match, right? What is the way in which you have to deal with these different situations as a coach?
What I try to tell everybody is there is not a cookie cutter. Every player is different. So some players during practice we have to be a lot stronger, a lot tougher. Some players during practice we can negotiate with them, uh, or you have to negotiate with them. All depends on the player. All the players is they could be 9 years old, 10 years old. I guarantee you they're different. The players that are gonna be stars, they are different from the beginning, and you have to treat them differently. You cannot treat everybody the same because you can't. So all those players that had that talent, that potential, we take them aside. If he's a Seles, a Sharapova, a Jankovic, we take them all aside, and we had to train very, very differently. They're very different from one to another. So during practice, with some of them, we have to be more demanding. We have to be
Mm,
tougher. We have to be stronger. We have to be more of a, strong coach. With some of them, it's more of a negotiation. Okay, we're gonna do this. You also want to do that. Okay, we're gonna do half and half. You know, Especially with the girls, you have to renegotiate a lot. you
mm,
know During matches is the same. Like before the match, some players like to talk strategy the night before, and then they like to talk at length. Some of them get very nervous, so they don't want to talk strategy the night before. They want to do it the day before the match, and the day before the match, some of them want little information, some of them want a lot of information. So you have to know your player. And it's the same thing after the matches. Some players after the matches, you can talk to them right away. Lose or win, you have to talk to them. And some of them you have to wait until the next day, because whatever you tell them, they put a barrier, they block you. So as a player, I mean, as a high performance coach, you have to treat each player very differently because they are very different. And again, they could be 9 years old, they could be 12, they could be 21 years old. But if The advantage that I had is that I had the players usually from 9 years old all the way until they were 21. So they were like my kids.
Right.
I knew them. I could read them. I could sense if I could talk to them, if I could be strong, if I could be easy during the match. The same. If I could tell them, "Come on," or I could have to sit down and just cross my arms and I don't say a word, because they were like that. Like Nishikori, for example. When Nishikori, I couldn't say a word. I couldn't make one gesture. When Nishikori, I had to sit down and be a statue. What all the people, with the girls, I had to go, come on. So there are the different aspects of the coaches that depending on the player. But it's a very good question because it's not a cookie cutter. You have to know. Same thing. You have three kids in the family. I have three kids. They're very different.
Hmm.
Some of them one of them I can talk very straightforward. The other one have to be easier. The other one have to negotiate. They are different, but we have to know if they are different.
How do you as a coach deal with when somebody wins and when somebody loses?
Again, it all depends on the player, but we always one of the common things that all these players that made it had in common was that they have very bad memory. If they lost the match, if they lost the match, that was it. You couldn't talk about it because they know what I was talking about. So the good players forgot really fast. If they lost, that match was finished. They forgot really fast. The players that didn't make it were the players that they lost the match and that match stayed in the back of their mind. I had them, I could have won that match. If I would have won that match, I would have been number one. But the good players, I'll tell you a story. I used to tape all of them. And after the match, we cut the tape, say to 3 minutes long, maximum 3 minutes, with the music that they liked. And we only put the points that they won. I mean, the good points that they won. No one point that they lost, no one point that the opponent lost. It's the points that they won. I promise you, in all my years coaching, none of the players watch one of the matches that they lost. Even if they only it was to show the great points that they won, they wouldn't watch it because they had, like I said, very bad memory. If they lost the match, that match was over. They were thinking about the tournament next week. That's the way these champions think. They're always thinking ahead. They don't think in the past. The past is gone.
So, but is it, you normally say you learn from your mistakes, right? You learn from your mistakes and then you make a change. Had they learned from their mistake, or was it a blind eye that they were transporting? Were they trying to escape from it? Like, how would you think about it?
The way we do is if they lost a match the day after, the way I approach it is, what do you learn from the match? That's all I ask them. I don't tell them, hey, you did this right, this wrong. No, what do you learn from the match? And they're very smart. So they usually give you the answers that they were there. So the best lessons they can learn are the ones that they teach themselves. And I also think with our kids is the same. If they make a mistake and we ask them, hey, what do you learn from that mistake? Or what do you learn from this experience? They're not stupid. They will tell you exactly, "Hey, this is what I learned from that experience. I learn from it." But most of the times, what do we try to do as parents? You did this wrong. You did this wrong. This is what happens. You do it again. You know, and then that's not the way. It's the same thing with the players. If I'm gonna tell them what they did wrong, they're gonna block me. But if I ask them, hey, what do you learn from the match? I'm not even asking what can you do better. No, what do you learn? They'll tell you exactly what they did right, what they did wrong, and that's it. I'll leave it at that, and we move forward.
Amazing. It is just, what did you learn? It is not harping over the loss. It is nothing. No, could have, would have, should have. All of that is out. Let's see what we have to do next. That's it.
Exactly. What do you learn? And then some of
Amazing.
them are very positive and they say, well, I could do this better, or next time I can beat him because of this or that. Some of them get a little more negative. Man, my backing didn't work, or this didn't work. But it's them talking to themselves, not me telling them. So, it's them teaching the lesson themselves.
Are world champions harder to coach or easier to coach?
This is a very good question. But what people don't understand is, I look at them, like I said, I made them. So I started with them since they were 9 years old. So they were like my children. I knew when they were up, when they were down. I knew what they were looking for, what type of reinforcement they were looking for. But they made us better coaches. I tell you stories. For example, Sharapova showed up every day. Okay, what is my objective for today? So I, mean, I had to be prepared. I mean, I had to go to them knowing that this is what we're gonna, because she was little and she was asking me already, what is my objective for today?
At 8 and 9, she's asking you what is my objective for the day.
9 years old, first day of practice.
Wow.
First day of practice, she goes, okay, what is my objective for today? What am I trying to accomplish today? And I said, Maria, I never seen you play in my life. You just showed up, but that was Maria, 9 years old, all of them were the same. Another example. Agassi is playing, and he's playing and he hit a good shot and I go, good shot. And he turns around, he goes, what does that mean? Good shot, what does that mean? So when we gave him information, it had to be the proper information. We couldn't just give him information. So those players made us better coaches because they were asking more and more from us every time, in every way. Another example, the Sampras, he's coming 14 years old. He's coming to the net, he's getting past, he was losing. And in the changeover, I tell him, hey, select better when you go to the net. And he stopped and he goes, Gabe, I'm investing in my game. I mean, so you have to know how to deal with these players. You have to know, but at the same time, if you are smart, they'll make you a better coach because they're gonna ask a lot from you, and you have to be really prepared. In whatever information you give, it has to be precise.
I love that. What is a good shot, right? Normally we're so used to saying good, but it doesn't tell you anything. It doesn't give you any actual feedback. I love it. So, like, more of this, less of that. What should I do? Amazing. So, they actually pushed you to be better. And as a result, while you were making them, the whole, I think, it's what they say, right? Like a tide raises all the ships. I think everyone works together and becomes better in the process.
I agree. I mean, I go from the very beginning when I started my coaching career, which I thought I was very advanced because I was coming from a very good background. At the time, I really think I was ahead as a coach in terms of knowledge. But these kids, every day they made me better and better and better. And I look back and swear, that I owe a lot of my coaching career to their input. You know, Even if they didn't think that's what they were doing, that's what they did. They made me a better coach.
Did you ever have like two people that you were coaching facing each other in a match? Like, how do you decide which one you're going to support at that time?
It's two stories. One is when
Mhm.
Agassi played Courier in the
Mhm.
finals of the French Open. I knew that I couldn't sit on the stands because they see everything. I could be sitting way in the stands, not in the coach's box, but if they see everything. So I decided to go to Champs Elysees and watch it on TV. I wasn't gonna watch it. And another time that is interesting is that you probably talk about it is all these players are very superstitious. All of them are superstitious. So it's part of the routine, but it's a little bit different. So, for example, the first time I traveled with two girls, Lisa Bonder and Caroline Bassett, and they were, 7 and 6 in the world. And we went to Perugia, which was the Italian Open at the time.
Mhm.
I traveled with two of them, so I had to have two breakfasts because they hated each other. So I had to eat breakfast with one, then breakfast with the other one, lunch with one, lunch with the other one. But the interesting thing is we had to sit. If I sit with Caroline on one table, I had to sit with that same table every day. If I order eggs for breakfast, it was the same breakfast every day, the same lunch every day with the two of them. It- that's the type of superstitions that they have. They made it to the finals. One played Chris Evert, and the other one played Navratilova. The bad thing, it was playing semifinals, and it rained, so they had to play at the same time.
Mhm.
So I couldn't watch the matches. So I will go to Carlin Bass's matches, he will throw me away. I will go to the other one, he'll send me away. So after 3 games, I decided to go and sit in the bar. Nothing I could do. But I lost both players. On the way back to the French Open, I mean, they sat in the back of the flight because they didn't want to be with me, and that was it. I lost both of them. So it's not easy, especially when they are that close.
Yeah, especially like you said, children, right? Like you can't have a favorite child then, and you've grown up with them.
And and
But I
and the,
love the story about the superstitions, and it is all part of that routines and the rituals, right?
right,
Everything has to be the same. I don't want to think, why did he choose a poached egg today instead of fried egg?
like, exactly. But the superstition to me is like an illusion. I mean, there are a lot of stories in superstition. If you know about, for example, Ronaldo. If he travels on the plane, the soccer player, if he travels on the plane, he has to be the first one out of the plane. If they travel in the bus, he has to be the last one out of the bus. Michael Jordan, he used to play with the North Carolina shorts underneath his uniform. You know, Bjorn Borg, you remember he didn't shave, he played with the same Fila shirt. You know, all these superstitions that they think they're going to help them. But to me, superstition is an illusion. Uh, you cannot put emphasis on that because I think it will hamper your ability to compete. But it's such a fine line that how can you tell the player when they feel they're gonna you look at the soccer players when they step into the field, all of them touch the ground, they go like this, and it's part of that superstition that is part of the routines, but it is something that I don't know how much is going to help them. It's like I said, like positive habits that can shape our lives, and
Mm.
and they can determine success. um, the athletes use repetition every day, to make sure those routines are perfect. Uh, the routines are the ones that develop those habits, because you talk a lot about habits, but habits are only developed through routines. They have to be the right routines. Those rituals, and then the routines, what do they do? They give the players serenity. They feel that they have control. But the superstition is something that is an illusion. I tried for them not to stay away from them, but sometimes you can't.
It's the perception of control, right? Is that I think
Right,
I have control. It's
right.
absolutely that. Gabe, I've absolutely had a blast talking to you on this podcast. Thank you so much for coming on and having this conversation. How can people get in touch with you? How can people continue this conversation with you, the listeners who are listening right now?
No, I would love for them if they can read the book, I think, for parents, because even though it talks about, like you say, a lot of it is tennis, how to make champions, is a book that I think has a lot of insights in how to help parents. This book is for parents. It's more about parenting. It's about how to deal with the players that have potential, how to deal, not only in tennis, say in music, in arts, in math, so it's something that is going to help them a lot. And a big part of the book, or one of the chapters, is dedicated to basically routines, because I really believe in routines. And I know that the books that you have out, the last book that you put out for children, I think is very important that parents read those type of books, because that's what is going to make the children who they're going to be later on. They cannot
Yes.
wait to get bad habits and then try to change them, because that's really difficult. It's like a stroke, like I said before. If you have the right habits, then it's a lot easier to make them better and stronger. But if you have the wrong habits to change them, it is very difficult. So I encourage the parents to read this type of literature to help their children. It is a big responsibility as parents we have. We cannot delegate that responsibility. So I think the more we know, the more knowledge we have, because there are not very many books out there on how to be a good parent or what to do. But I think this type of books can help them a lot.
Yes, yes. And I think all parents want the best for their children. And if you can make them into champions, my God, I think that's like the holy grail for most parents. So
Absolutely.
amazing,
That's what the
amazing.
parents want. They want the best for the children, and that's our. I said the best investment we're gonna make as parents is in our children, and I'm not talking about money. I'm talking about time. To take him to practice, to pick him up, to take him to tournaments, or to take him to extra school, whatever it is. That extra time is the best investment a parent is gonna make.
Gabe, it's been fantastic. Thank you. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. It's been brilliant.
No, I had the greatest time. I've been looking forward to talking to you for a long time. So I'm so glad that we're able to meet, and hopefully we can do it again.
Yes, we must. We must. I think there's so much that's coming to my mind that I want to ask you again. So maybe we'll do a part two on this and it'll be a blast.
I would love to. I would love to. And congratulations on everything you do, and congratulations on the podcast and the book. And keep it up. You're doing a great job. Keep it up.
Thank you. Thank you. If you like this episode, don't forget to hit subscribe. Also, give us a rating. It really helps with people discovering the podcast. If you like podcasts like this, check out other interesting podcasts on the IVM network. You can also watch all the episodes on the Habit Coach Awesome 180 YouTube channel. Follow us on social media. We are at IVM Podcasts on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, everywhere. You can also reach out to me. I am Ashdin Doc at Twitter and Instagram. You can connect with me on my website, awesome180.com. You can also check out my 2 new books, Change Your Habits, Change Your Life, and the second, The Book of Good Habits for Kids. I am Ashdin Doctor, your habit coach.
IVM.